All right. So VCs, PEs, private equity companies, and venture capitalist companies.
Oh, there's just two.
Angel investors, seed investors.
What's the difference between all of these? Because I don't think I'm the only person in the room who gets them all mixed up.
So VCs come at the early stage of a startup mainly, and just for a very layman's perspective, PEs come when you're a bit established and you're on the roll already. So VCs come in early. They do pretty much the same thing, but VCs are early and PEs are later. But at the very beginning, you start with the angels, the ones that come at the very beginning, and that could be family, friends, and all of that.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'd like to add a bit of context
Please.
to that. First off, I'll start with an introduction because I think it's important that we get to know who is speaking, right? Yeah, you already know my name, Uche Aniche. I'm a founder of an angel network that is based here in Port Harcourt, investing in startups in the region across the South, Southeast, and it's called South-Southeast Angel Network. But I'm also a co-founder of a VC firm that is also based here in Port Harcourt, investing in founders across Africa's secondary cities, right? So with that context,
May I ask what you mean by secondary cities?
Good. Our definition of secondary cities are cities that the existing venture capital firms are refusing to go to. Now, those secondary cities would include cities like Port Harcourt, Enugu, Tema in Ghana, Ogbomosho, for instance. Those kind of cities where the normal VCs would not want to venture into for obvious reasons, right? We want to be able to be there. So we run a $5 million fund that we want to be able to get into those places and support innovative people in those places. So introductions done. Let me add the context I wanted to add to his answer. And I say that because of the audience we have here today. Because when we discuss funding, right, a lot of times people assume that, this funding thing is supposed to be done by a special breed of people, a lot of people that could support the innovation ecosystem, a lot of them are sitting down here today, but they don't realize that they could be part of the support for the innovation ecosystem. So they just think, funding, go to BOI, right? What they don't understand is that places like Silicon Valley that we all look up to are mostly people, private individuals, even up to the schools. So you have, Uniport has a strong alumni network, and all of that can be a strong angel investor network supporting solutions and innovations from Uniport, for instance. The same thing with UST, right? But because the knowledge, the understanding is lacking, we just sit down and say, government has not done this, and BOI has not done this, right? So angel investors are typically people who invest their own fund, right? They invest their own fund, but a typical angel investor is an experienced professional who has expertise and experience in the space that the innovator is working on. So he brings not just funding, he brings, in addition to funding, expertise, access, right? He's able to open doors to that person. Something like Ibufuro has left, somebody invested in Ibufuro early and was able to help them take their hands and take them into certain places. That guy was an angel investor, right? Now, so angel investors invest in early stages, just like he said. But beyond that, beyond angel investors, then you have VCs. Now, who are the VCs? So unlike the angel investors, VCs do not necessarily invest their own funds. So you have GPs in venture capital firms who basically take money from private individuals and then help them to invest those funds in promising businesses in order to make return, right? So That's the summary of who VCs are. Now, PEs are similar to VCs. They also take money from private individuals and institutional investors, sometimes people like the development finance people like Bank of Industry, and even the sovereign wealth funds, right? And big corporates. They take money from them and they invest. But one thing about the PEs is that, just like he said, they invest later, but typically VCs invest at the late stage, typically when a business is about to exit. So most times you see VCs get into businesses when they are ready to IPO, right? So the same concept, but different stages. And that's the context I wanted to bring to this.
Okay. And I'm already getting more education than my money's worth today. Love it very much. The idea of secondary cities has been around since I was a boy living here in Port Harcourt. And there is a metric which I'm not sure if anybody sitting here is familiar with, of the metropolises in the world and where cities like Lagos and Port Harcourt rank. Anyone know about this metric?
Where cities and
Yeah,
Port
the
Harcourt?
metropolitan ranking of cities.
Yeah, just to add to that. So technology pretty much exists in ecosystem. That's what we call them. And ecosystems are what drives investments per se. For example, in the top 1,000 ecosystems for investment in technology, everybody knows Silicon Valley is at the top, number one. Now, in the top 1,000, you have 5 ecosystems from Nigeria.
And what are those?
First, Lagos. Second, Abuja. Third, Ibadan. Fourth, Enugu. And fifth, Port Harcourt. Now, these ecosystems are ranked based on the amount of investments that have come to them. But again, let me just throw more light on it. Lagos, being number 1 in Nigeria, is number 82 in the world. I'd explain that.
82 out of how many?
Out of 1,000. And Port Harcourt, being again top 5 in Nigeria, is number 961. Now, yeah. So, now, interestingly, Port Harcourt.
Well, hold up. Wait, chill. Wait. I'm not the only one who didn't like the sound of that, right? Hang on. There's 82 here.
Blaze.
Yeah, just
I think
to
we
add to
shouldn't
that.
miss. I think we shouldn't miss an opportunity to make a difference. So let's let him finish, and then we can add something to it.
Yeah,
Those numbers upset me, Uche.
Yeah,
Just-
I know, but it's good that we're having that conversation here.
All right.
And just to add to that, Port Harcourt is the only ecosystem amongst the 9 Niger Delta states to be in the top 1,000. And they are number 961. Now, Africa as a continent has attracted a lot of investment in the past 5 years. In fact, last year alone, Africa attracted almost $3.3 billion. And I think it's an investment in an industry unlike many other industries. Guess what? Nigeria accounted for almost 30% of that, a little over $900 million, and Lagos took 87% of that. Now, I say this because they've been very intentional. Lagos is the hub of Africa. Lagos has more investment than any other ecosystem in Africa. After Lagos is Nairobi. Lagos alone, as of 2022, churned out, they have in fact, double the size of startup companies that were invested in compared to Nairobi, which is the second. So I'm saying double. Lagos had over 200, about 212. Nairobi had 109. So the point I'm trying to make is we are far behind in the Niger Delta, so far behind because it's not just about innovation. It's not just about how good your tech is. It has to be a business case. And it's not just a business case. It has to be, is the environment attractive enough to invest in? Is the ecosystem attractive enough to invest in? And what then is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is simply hubs or things. For example, what we're doing now is like a fire starter. It's like throwing a pebble in water, so then the ripple effect comes. Lagos grew in the past 5 years from having just 10 serious hubs to 85.
Yeah.
Now, we have to be very, very intentional because those are the things that form an ecosystem that makes it attractive for investors to come. Because aside the investors, the products that we come up with and call technology, they must and they have to be, or they have to have a business connotation to them. It has to be a business case.
Okay. Then hold up, Uche. Oh, Uche is.
I want to add something to what he said.
Okay.
Because, like I said, we shouldn't miss the opportunities. It's okay to feel bad that Port Harcourt is 900 and something, right? But the way I am wired to think is, so what? So what are we going to do about it? Do you understand? Now, he said something that the ranking, and I'm sure you're quoting Startup Blink, right? Now, the ranking is it's been done, but the ranking is not just based on funding. And I think it's important everybody understands that.
What other factors come into that ranking?
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. The ranking is based on a number of issues, including the vibrancy of the ecosystem. The number of startups in the city, for instance, listing on places like Crunchbase. I run Startup South, and I know that a number of times, so there's this thing happening around here. Sometimes we get fragmented because of turf. People just feel, oh, this is a tough thing. Let me protect my turf. And people don't realize that with collaboration, we can do so much more, right? He says Lagos is intentional. Yes, and I agree. And that brings me to another factor. Part of the vibrancy, measure of vibrancy, is how much of support that the government in the spaces are providing. I believe that's what you speak to about environment, right? How much of support is the government providing to the ecosystem? How much of support are institutions like NDDC, for instance? How much of support are they providing to the ecosystem, right? Now, all of those things mix up. How many events? So vibrancy is also measured by how many events. And that's one of the reasons why I commend the organizers of this program. And I keep telling George, and I said to him, we need more of this level of events in Port Harcourt, for instance. We need to just, not just in Port Harcourt, and forgive me, every time I speak, I don't just speak for Port Harcourt. I speak for the entire region, South, South, Southeast, right? We need more of this event happening in Port Harcourt. We need more of this event happening in Enugu. We need more of this event happening in Owerri, right? This level of event, global events, because those are the things that attract these people eventually. But much more than that, we need to begin to pay attention to the quality of startups that we are incubating at our hubs, the quality of startups we're building. I tell you, a lot of times when this kind of events happen, people get involved for the sake of getting involved without paying attention to the details and the quality of what they are producing, right? Please, I know you want to...
You have a rebuttal? You guys, I still have a question that has to go out, and you guys have not let me get a word in edgeways. Okay.
I also believe, like, part of the essence why we're here is there would also be lots of people here with their companies, and they would be wondering, how do we gain access to funding? There's also a pathway to that. And we can't just put everything at the foot of government and all of those people, because as individuals and as innovators, we also need to try to create like really good products, just like you've said, like quality startups. And the whole funding thing is not peculiar to tech. Start or try starting a business in the environment that we're in is also as difficult or almost as difficult. So it's not peculiar to tech. In fact, I would even say tech has it easier because every year there is a tech fund globally that you can get access to. But you can't do that for many other industries. So for tech, it's a function of building or coming up with the right kind of product. And then what is a product? A product is something you come up to solve a problem. In other words, look for something, a solution to a problem. So we all have to come together, build the ecosystem. You see what he spoke about, the vibrancy of the system is on all of us to do so, but then there has to be a lot of intention towards doing so.
Okay. Finally, I get to say something here. Gentlemen, a follow-up question which I've personally been asked by several people at different points in this 3-day event has been, is there a relationship between tech funding and the trends in technology? There are quite a few developers and other technologists sitting here, and hang on, let me show you what I mean. Developers, hands up. Thank you very much. How many of you have noticed that AI as a term has just slipped in quietly and replaced crypto? You saw that one, right? The trends keep on shifting, and the developers naturally think, oh, you know what? Let me just jump on the next thing because, I mean, now AI is hot. So maybe crypto is not the thing anymore, especially since Binance people are getting arrested. So maybe AI is hot, maybe I shift to that. Maybe tomorrow it becomes renewable energy or something else and I shift to that. Is there a relationship between what is trending in technology and acquiring tech funding, or are these things completely separate? Hang on. You gentlemen have had a fair go. I want to hear from him. Engineer Rabo, let's go.
I think I will approach it from a different perspective. You can never catch up with trends. That was why I gave you an acronym of names. Have we solved our basic problems? They will forever remain with us. So all these are different ways we try to solve problems. So long as the basics remain, just focus on the basics. Just focus on a problem you know that people will have today, they will have tomorrow, they will have next tomorrow. Because you need that. It is market that actually drive. Whenever you are doing something that is actually impacting people, the funders are looking for you. Because in every society, there are 3 kinds of people. I call them the seed givers, the sowers, and the fruit eaters. The fruit eaters are the market. They are the one they are the one that dictate what the seed giver will even give and what the sower will plant. So always keep your eyes on human beings. That is why I told you lovepreneurship. Keep your eyes on the human. What are their pain points? Once you keep your eyes on the human beings and you love them, because if you don't love people, you will never feel their pains. Because I hear the whole narrative. We are talking about billions. We are talking about money. If you go with money, you will mourn. Just go with people.
Well,
Don't be here and think that I will let me create a software so that I can become Mark Zuckerberg. No, just solve problem. Mark Zuckerberg is solving millions of people, problem of millions of people, not just making money from the air.
Yeah. Sorry to jump in. So I have to confess that I like engineers' take, to things. And I told my people behind when he was speaking, I said, I love his approach to this conversation, right? Mm-hmm. I like to, however, try to bring an additional, context, especially from the question you asked, right? Mm-hmm. I think we need to realize a bit of a few things about how funding works, especially if we're asking for investors, right? Except we want BOI to fund, right? And not, you understand. BOI has their role. BOI has their role. And of course, you cannot take away that role from them. Mm-hmm. But part of the things that count when it comes to the ecosystem, if you want those kind of people to get involved in funding startups, right, then there are a few definitions we need to get clear, right? And that's part of when I spoke about quality of startup. It's part of what I was hinting at. If I take a sample in this hall today and I ask people here, please, what does startup mean to you? I can assure you that 80% of people here will raise up their hand and say a startup is a small business that is just starting. Who disagrees with me? Isn't that the definition of startup? Is that not the definition of startup? It's a small business that is just starting, right? True or false? Huh?
They largely disagree with you.
So you know. Okay, great. So you see?
We have a smart audience, you might have noticed.
Yeah. So I give it up to them. But the truth is, a lot of times, 80% of your audience believes that the startup is a small business that is just starting. Okay? Mm-hmm. And because you have that definition of startup, the quality of what they are working on, the quality of what they are building, is usually not attractive to the investors. A typical investor is expecting to put money in a business that he can exit with at the minimum. We used to tell people it's 25x, but we bring it down to 20x, right? These days, if you exit with 5x, you've done a good job, right? But here's the thing. They are looking for businesses that can scale. That's the fundamental. How do you take, whether it is names, you're taking the acronym names, how can you take it to millions of people? We're not just talking about you building something because you want to eat food, right? So there's this thing about ambition, okay? And unfortunately, ambition is one of the things that we have to do a lot of work, you know?
Yeah.
There's this thing about ambition. How do you get the names? How do you take whatever names you choose to do into the hands of millions of people and possibly billions of people? That is what stands Mark Zuckerberg out. It's not just because he built Facebook. It is because there was MySpace before Facebook, right?
Yeah, but MySpace didn't
There
use
was Yahoo Chat.
But they didn't use React.
That is the point. It is his ability to get Facebook into billions of people's hands, right? That stands him out. So if we are building, we need to understand that that's basically the definition of what startup is. Because these people are looking to make money, okay? And if they can't make money from your fashion shop. So if you're doing your fashion shop in your little corner, and you're asking investors to come and invest, I'm sorry, banks can actually give you money because there's already, cash flow. There's positive cash flow. Banks, that's where banks come in. They can give you money to do that.
But there is no evidence of their ability to scale.
Can I come in briefly?
Please.
So, regarding your question and engineer's answer, I totally agree with him, but I'll just explain to you what I mean. Every business, when you're starting up, every business should be local at the beginning, because there's also what you call like proof of concept. At the beginning, you try it on a small scale. And I agree with him, for investors, for you to attract investors are looking for what can scale. Now, again, not every business is designed, or not every tech business is designed for millions of people.
Yes.
You could come up with solutions that businesses use. There are many, many B2B businesses out there. There are many applications. In fact, software as a service is increasingly popular now. And they're just, so when we think or we talk of a tech fund, it's not just, first of all, just start by what solutions locally can I provide? What problem is out there, first of all, from a very basic level. Then the second question is this solution or is this problem, is it profitable long term? Because it doesn't need to be profitable at the beginning, because you're trying to create value. Value is what you're trying to create. You're trying to provide a solution to a problem. And it has to start local, because you don't understand the problem of a different metropolis. So you may not know what's going on there. But the ones you're seeing in front of you, and to get this thing going, I think like that's how it should begin. However, there are different businesses you can also start that has no boundaries that you can use round. So again, from like the most basic level, which is where I think we should start from as an ecosystem, is to have solutions to different problems that are primarily local. Then after that, we start to step up and go up.
Thank you.
To your question about trend.
One step backwards. Go right ahead.
Yes. Funding follows trend, and the reason is because of exit. All right. Exit is important. Today, almost everybody is investing in AI, right? And this is where I agree with him. But again, it is our reality. We have not solved a lot of our basic problems, right? But again, until our people begin to be involved in investing, right? It will be difficult to tell people not to follow trend. Because if my money is coming, if my investors are coming from the US, for instance, that's my LPs, let's say my limited partners are US based, right? The reason some of them are going to be investing in my fund or supporting my fund is because higher up the ladder, the startups that are investing at this stage, they can give them more value up and they can take more value from them. And that's the exit, right? So AI is trending because that's almost what everybody is going at. And there will be a time when acquisitions and merger will begin to happen, because you know how tech grows is that after the rush, there's a consolidation, right? At a point, the consolidation will happen and people will begin to, you see people begin to merge and begin to buy up other people. And that's how the exit and liquidity happens in the ecosystem. And so that's one of the reasons why it follows trend. But we can recreate that. We can recreate that in our own reality, right? And that would take a lot of people here who have the capacity and the capability to get involved, to actually become LPs and become angel investors, right?
So I'm going to follow that up with a question. If, and this is hypothetical, if there were individuals here who had the wallet capabilities to say, you know what, I would like to go ahead and invest, what is the entryway for them?
Okay.
All right, let me start. So,
I'll do.
many years ago, when I'd use myself as an example, when we're doing like tech startups and starting these companies, there were no funds here or people to meet. So at the time, there was one of the places I made a pitch. It was called Lagos Angel Network. And they had a network of angel investors. These were private individuals that were put together, and they entrusted their monies with professionals. And they were not VCs, they were not a PE company, or they were not PEs. They were just angel investors. But then they all came together and called it LAN. And every year they would fund 10 businesses. So different businesses would come, they would make a pitch, and out of all the businesses that came to do a pitch, they'll pick 10, and then they would advise the investors, invest in this 10 this year. So every year, in other words, in 5 years by themselves, they would invest in 50 companies. Now, they didn't wait for the government, they didn't wait for nothing. These were just normal, regular individuals that came together and entrusted a bunch of people that were business savvy to organize the pitch and take the monies to invest. So that's one way on a very basic level.
And I'm happy to tell you that since 2018, I mean, when we discovered, like he said, he didn't have places to pitch here. It was part of the challenge, right? I mean, from 2015 when we started Startups Out, it was one of the recurring things we keep hearing from founders. And a lot of the founders in the ecosystem had to migrate from here, which is one of the reasons why it's okay to develop tech talent, but we should make sure that we're able to retain them. You cannot grow. No society can grow by losing their best people.
Yes, sir.
You lose your best people to other places, and then they come back spent, right? You will continue to play catch up to those places. So so I and a couple of people, we started engineering and thinking, how do we solve the problem? In 2018/2019, we created the South-Southeast Angel Network. Today, South-Southeast Angel Network has invested about $490-something thousand in about 16 startups in the last 2 years, right? So that's like $500,000 if you want to round it up, right? In the last 2 years, we've invested that amount, okay, in 16 startups across the region. But I have to say that, and it's open. It's something that people can join. South-Southeast Angel Network.
Is there a web link or something? If I Google this, do I find it?
bit.ly/SSE.
Okay, no. Uche, this is maybe the most important thing you say. Slow it down and say that so everyone hears you.
bit.ly/SSEAN.
bit.ly/SSEAN. SSEAN.
Yes.
All right.
Now,
there you go.
Now that helps. I mean, if you join the network, you'll be joining almost 40 other individuals scattered across the globe that are interested and passionate about the region, and Port Harcourt for that matter, right? So that's one way to get involved. Another way to get involved is to say, and I usually tell people to start from angel investing and get their hands wet. You'll be shocked that with 500,000 naira you'll be investing in a startup. But the thing is, the 500,000 naira you're investing may not make a lot of difference all by yourself. But because you're pulling 500,000 naira, you're 10 of you pulling 500,000 naira and investing in a startup, 10 of you are giving that startup 5 million naira. So assuming you have 10 million as an investment fund, for instance, annual investment budget, okay, you cannot take that 10 million and put in one startup. Even if you do, it's not going to be useful to that startup all by yourself, right? But you can do 20 startups at 500,000 naira each. And at the end of the day, let's say 20% of those startups succeed. You get your money back, as in the total money back, several times over. I mean, like everything in life, there's risk, right? Like everything in life, there's risk, but you have to understand that it is not, we tell people, get into angel investing with money you can afford to lose, right? But there is one thing you have to know going forward. It is better that you are getting involved in angel investing, whether you're losing the money or not, because you will be getting involved in helping the society become better. The young people and not so young people that you're engaging by investing in their businesses become less available to vices.
Fair enough.
So instead of having the money and securing yourself and building fences and putting all the gadgets to secure yourself, get involved in supporting young people to build value, build businesses and build value, and you will care less about security because they are already engaged and are less available to vices, and you will not be harmed. So let's begin to look at security from that angle as well.
Hang on, Lata is chomping at the bit.
No, I was just saying that even though you want to be an angel investor, these things there has to be a plan, you know. And for me, I'll speak personally. I think as an ecosystem, aside being intentional about developing it, I think like there's a whole lot more that can be done. We have to tell ourselves because angel investors are just one part of it. Mm-hmm. We have to build incubators, or we have to have more incubators if they are, because what's an incubator? A new idea it's just going to die. It's just like a newborn baby. So it needs, because many tech companies, you don't start making profit immediately.
Yeah.
So you need the staying power. And then also, as an ecosystem, we need to be intentional and say, okay, look, should we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 accelerators? And these are all hubs that foster the development of an ecosystem. And in doing all of these things, they all come together, and then they form that collage for investments to happen. So it's not just a one thing or one company trying to do this. There are many stakeholders involved. And the intentional part that I mean is events like this are the things that bring all the stakeholders together. We have discussions, and then we meet, and after that, it just starts. Before now, we don't have too many of these things happen.
Okay, hang on. No, we'll get back to that. So we're officially at our question time. That's 10 minutes to go before we wrap up this session. Could I please ask that the microphones be passed to individuals? Okay, if you would like to ask a question, please indicate by raising your hand up. So there's the lady there. Okay, there's a gentleman and the lady. Who else is there? The young bloke over there. There's someone there in the back. Could we get an extra mic and make sure it goes round to these folks? We can start. Okay, please introduce yourself and ask your question.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to the amazing panel. Engineer Erabo, hello. My name is Nona Usoro, and I work with the National Agricultural Development Fund as the head of M&E. My question is to you, Engineer Erabo. You mentioned 4 billion when you started, a partnership with the Rivers State government. I would like to ask, how much of that 4 billion has been earmarked for women-owned and led nano, micro, small, and medium-scale businesses? How much? So I have 3 questions. That's the first one. The second one is, I want you to be a bit specific regarding the basic requirements for businesses that to access the funding. You mentioned different types of businesses. I want you to explain to the audience what the basic requirements are to be able to access funding. And my third question is, what are your key priority sectors for funding? Thank you.
Engineer Arabo?
Thank you very much. I think that question will help me to answer some specifics. One of the things you did not add, which I want to add to that question, is that what is the interest rate? I hope you're interested to know the interest rate. So the interest rate for that partnership with the state government is 7.5. 7.5. But BOI traditional funding is 10%. We always like to do 10% because we pride ourselves as God's own bank. You know, God takes 10%. I hope you know that. So we take 10%. So the state government was magnanimous to say the contribution of the state government will be earning 5%. So if you do that match, 10 plus 5, the average is 7.5. So the beneficiary of that matching fund, they only have to pay 7.5, because for every disbursement we make, 50% comes from the state government fund and 50% comes from BOI fund. So that is how we're able to do that. And we can do a lot of other partnership with other institutions like NDDC and do help a lot of people. So we are in that scheme, because the state government is involved, they allowed us to expand the sectors that BOI would not naturally finance. And one of those sectors is trading. Bank of Industry, we don't do trading. Any attempt we have, previous attempt at funding trading, we only restricted ourselves to trading in made in Nigerian products. But for this Rivers State, because they are partnering with us, they have to tweak our risk acceptance criteria and say, please add, we have a lot of traders here who love that they are able to access trading, facility for trading. And so virtually we can do any form of business, so long as it is value adding. Are you creating wealth and are you creating jobs? So BOI traditional sector would have been manufacturing, processing. We can do waste management. There are a lot of waste around. We can finance health sector. We can finance education. We can just think of anything that you can see in this hall. If you can produce it in Nigeria, Bank of Industry can fund you. We will fund M&M, machinery and materials. That means raw materials and packaging materials, plus all the machineries you need to finance it, to process it. We don't finance brick and mortar, your building. We don't finance that. But every other thing, utilities and your equipment, Bank of Industry can fund it. For the percentage for women in that scheme, Bank of Industry, we are very gender sensitive. We actually even have a gender desk. So we are very particular when we go into funding. We always make room for youth and for women. So in that space, not less than 40% of that scheme must be targeted at for youth and for women. I don't know if I have answered.
Yes, you have. But in terms of the kinds of businesses, how many years?
We have to move to other questions.
To be in business, what kind of business? Limited liability, business name, those kind of specifics.
Okay, for what we qualify you must already have a business, but we also make room for startup. But there are 2 legs to that matching fund. There are those that are going to access less than 1 million. For less than 1 million, an individual can access it. You don't need to own a registered business or an enterprise. Just have a business. You can access it. But above 1 million, you must have an enterprise. Up to 10 million, above 10 million, you must have a limited liability company. So between 1 million and 10 million, you need to have an enterprise, a business name. And what is the security you will have to provide us? It is 10% of the money that you are going to access. So if you apply for 10 million, 1 million, which will be placed in a fixed deposit, bearing interest for the tenure of the loan. And once you pay back the loan, the interest and the principal is returned back to you. So it is like encouraging you to save and also trying to determine whether you have the capacity of what you are asking for. Because everybody can just say, I need 10 million. Whenever you have never even counted 100,000 of your own, you'll be asking for 10 million. So we say, if you must ask for 10 million, prove to us that you have something like 10% of it. Then 2 guarantors. You will need 2 guarantors for 10 million and below. Above 10 million, you need landed property. It must be a land that have a CFO in any state capital in Nigeria. And if you have it in Port Harcourt, we will gladly take it.
All right. There was a gentleman in front over there who also wanted to ask a question.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So this is not a question.
No observations.
It's important. It's important. This is not a question. So I'm just interfering because I feel this is the right moment for it. Bank of Industry, you're there. Mr. Uche, you're also by his side. And the truth is, for some couple of weeks since the initiation of the 4 billion naira loan, you know how I've been trying to advocate for the tech ecosystem to be really part of what's happening. But we're still in conversation. So for me, I think we should not just speak about this tech funding at this point, because if you ask me, it is one of the most critical part of the ecosystem for us to really come out with something valuable as an outcome of this program. So I would suggest, I would plead, I would solicit. Mr. Uche talked about the Lagos Angel Investor Network, right? So I want to ask, sir, if we could leverage this platform today and see how to possibly work with Mr. Uche, Bank of Industry, you're there, and sir, you're here representing NDDC, if we could put forces together to see how to come up with something solid, like a Port Harcourt Angel Network that will support the bulk of startups that are here, because I've gone through it. I was in Lagos before I came here, and I know what it is trying to raise funds down there in Lagos, and we have all the opportunities here. The audience is already set up. We have CEOs, people that can really pull out those funds. It's just about we initiating it. By the side of this place is Heliconia. Each time I go there, I see whites and people that are really interested in knowing what's happening in Port Harcourt and also sponsoring them in terms of finances. So I think at this moment, we could just maybe agree together, sir, for us to work together and see if we could come up with our own Port Harcourt or Rivers State Angel Network something. I believe strongly that it's going to cause a change. Thank you.
All right. We're currently down to 57 seconds of our time left.
Uche, so let's action now. You set the criteria. We have some CEOs here. We'll start the funds now.
Sorry.
Microsmart.
Judge, can I say something?
Shoot.
Good. I'm okay with setting up a Port Harcourt Angel Network, right? I'm happy for us to do that. But I'm just wondering, do we need to replicate?
Uche,
That's number one.
on.
But again, let me say something.
Uche, wait first now. Let's raise the money first. How we administer it, we'll do. Microsmart Africa, you will help us coordinate this. We'll raise some funds. Other than the tech pitch and hackathon we're doing, separately, we'll raise some funds and then create a criteria for startups that can access those kind of funds. So here and now, I have ProxyLogics here. I have Digital Footprints here. I have Microsmart here. My big brother, Vaughn, is here. We want to raise some funds. We'll pray and look for a proper structure to house the funds. As an outflow of what we're doing here today, let's know that beyond the people that will benefit from the funds that will come out today, we still have like some 20, 30 million somewhere waiting for one or two people that can access it. If we start from small, we can run to a 1 billion, waiting for people who are qualified. Challenge them. See, the money is here. Bring your solution. See the cash here. We'll automate it, put it online. So every 10 naira that enters, everybody knows that, see how much it has grown to. We have 100 million, no? It is you that we are waiting for now. So, no, our elder brother should start now. Roxy, Vaughn, are you going to start? How much are you going to give to us, sir? We're creating an angel fund to support small businesses. I will start it with 2 million naira. Then you will tell us how much you're going to give to us. And then we'll nominate an administrator for the funds. And then we're going to encourage them to we'll give them areas that they'll work on: fintech, waste management, edtech, all of that. We're raising the funds today. And I don't know if you should manage the funds. You know how to do these kind of things. Okay, you don't have time. Ross, but sir, let's just know. I'm sorry, I'm taking time, but I like practical stuff. Practical stuff. Thank you, sir.
Okay, now you want to know the amount. Ross, what do you think? What should we do?
George?
Ross says 5 million.
So Big Bro is giving us 5 million here. Ross, that is his own. No, God forbid. I don't agree.
So the reason why we have decided to wait back, Proxilogics, Arilla, Microsmart, and Digital Footprints, is actually because we wanted to see those pitching. And we actually have projects that are already ongoing that we will be ready to pitch on if we see competent people. And so in terms of the angel, what do you call it, angel fund that you're trying to raise, Arilla is doing 5 billion over time. I don't want to announce an amount that will limit us to what we can do, because currently we have a massive project. We just want to see guys that we can tie that money to. But I'm very confident that Proxilogics we're trying to set up a hub as well in Port Harcourt and a co-working space. I am very careful not to mention the amount, but we will not do anything less than 5 million to support what you're doing. But we are looking forward to seeing what the guys pitching. We want to see what the guys pitching are doing. So that's where we really want to target like ready funds into now. Thank you.
Thank you. Charity begins at home. Let me begin with my own friends. Sir, Digital Footprint, sir.
Yesterday they taught corporate governance. And one of the things they taught us was separating yourself from your business. The business is an institution. So I will not say anything for Proxilogics because there is a board and there is a structure in that regard. But as a Rivers man who is desirous of supporting young people, I will personally support with 1 million naira.
Microsmart.
For the same reason, because I need to contact the board, I'll do 3 million.
So we have 3, 1, 4. That's 5. And is there anyone here that will want to do, no matter how small, let's do this as a community. It's not because some of us have more money than others. If it's 5 naira you have. So once we're done creating a system, I think I want the crowd to nominate. It's not something we can do today. We can do a voting system and pick any. The person doesn't have to be here. A trusted person within society.
See, I think the best way to run this, and I'm sure the guys on the panel will agree, the money will move in the direction of innovative projects. Nobody will be spoiled. When I see, Vaughn has a lot of projects going on. We have projects that are going to run in the next few weeks. Digital forensics, Microsmart, a lot of guys that are watching online that are with us, that are actually on the investors that are looking at this project and what we're doing here, are actually waiting to see what's going to be pitched. And I think you should create a platform where because I belong to an angel investor platform that is global. What happens almost every week, we see ideas, we see proposals. So it's those proposals that drive the funds. So I think what has to happen is to have a platform where these angel investors exist. And so there are ideas that can spill 50 million. There are ideas that can spill 100 million. But if you ask people to just drop it, they might not be willing to, if they don't see the ideas.
Gentlemen, I believe you are having a panel session in the audience.
Okay, just a moment. So, sir, I think we should toe his line. Beyond the fact that we needed to action immediately, raise funds and all, I think it's a matter of gathering interest, like as many persons who would be interested in joining that network. I don't know how it's going to be administered or whatever, but let's just start up something that people who are interested, we can gather, your influence, gather people in river states, well-meaning individuals, high network individuals, and let them know that there is a network, an angel investment network, river states, that we're about to kick off, and then we'll just get the database. So what can be happening here is just about getting database, and then we can think of how much possibly later.
Okay, so I think I would like to lay this to rest because you also support me. Individually, I will need to convince the board why I'm doing what I'm doing. But if it's a package that I know the entire, the board will be interested in, and this is what will be profitable. Even if you don't have the physical cash there, you can tell the bank to help you and get this done. And Bank of Industry is there. We have the facility we can use to pull that type of thing out. So let us not limit ourselves. Let us work out a framework, and then we can run with that.
So I think, I'm so sorry, sir. I don't like to cut the session, but it was important. So we're going to put a structure together, maybe get consultants to build a structure for us. But the good thing is that we have seed funds that we can start with. So unofficially, the Port Harcourt Angel Network has begun.
In what has to be one of the most unorthodox sessions we have conducted thus far here, I'm going to call this one a wrap, both because we're out of time for questions and far over time for our original session here. Gentlemen, could you please rise up and take a bow? Could we have a round of applause for them, please?